RU-58841, also known as PSK-3841 or HMR 3841, is a non-steroidal anti-androgen developed in the 1980s by French pharmaceutical company Roussel-Uclaf or Roussel-Uclaf. But I'm just going to use the English pronunciation Roussel-Uclaf. I'm not really going to get into the whole fancy Frenchy pronunciation, so hopefully I don't offend any French viewers. This was the second largest pharmaceutical company in France before being acquired by Germany's Hoechst AG pharmaceutical company in 1997. Subsequently, their pharmaceutical operations were integrated into the Hearst-Meron-Roussel division in the United States of America. By 1994, Roussel-Uclaf's agrochemical ventures had been handed to Hoechst. Now, as a side note, I'm going to be referring to RU-58841 by different names throughout this somewhat detailed account of this molecule's history. RU-58841 is a specific chemical compound, and like many chemical compounds, its name often derives from the laboratory or company where it was first synthesized or extensively studied. In the case of RU-58841, the RU prefix stands for Roussel-Uclaf, which was a French pharmaceutical company, like I mentioned in the beginning. Roussel-Uclaf was known for developing various compounds, and many of them have the RU prefix. The numbers that follow the 58841 are typically sequential identifiers or catalog numbers given to compounds as they are synthesized or discovered in the lab. It helps researchers track and refer to specific compounds in their studies. So the 58841 in RU-58841 doesn't have a specific meaning in and of itself. It's more so an identifier. Anyway, in 1999, Hoechst had a US subsidiary that I mentioned at the beginning, the Hearst-Meron-Roussel division in the United States, or HMR. HMR merged with another French pharmaceutical company named Rhône-Poulenc, resulting in a new pharmaceutical company, Aventis. A later merger in 2004 with Sanofi-Synthélabo birthed Sanofi-Aventis, now simply Sanofi. Separately, Hoechst united with the former Rhône-Poulenc's agrochemical unit in 1999, forming Aventis Crop Science. By 2002, Bayer AG had acquired this entity, leading to the creation of Bayer Crop Sciences. Now, what the hell do crop sciences and agricultural chemical studies have anything to do with a topical compound RU-58841? Well, between all of these mergers and acquisitions, it was not just the agricultural units of some of these companies. Whole units, entire divisions of these pharmaceutical companies would be merged into another pharmaceutical company. And in that process, information such as RU-58841 and other possible treatments for other possible conditions were shared amongst these, I guess you can say they're subdivisions, these subsidiary companies of the parent company, the larger company. So here, Bayer had access to both HMR or RU-58841. Now, around this time, both topical anti-androgens and even androgen topical treatments were being developed. Bayer and a United Kingdom pharmaceutical company known as ProStrakan began commingling, where ProStrakan would actually go on to give Bayer exclusive rights to certain chemical compounds, including a topical testosterone treatment. Here, the UK pharmaceutical company ProStrakan would go on to explore the potential of RU-58841, which they would go on to name under their company's consonants PSK-3841, for topical applications in treating androgen-dependent conditions. This includes conditions like acne and, yes, male pattern baldness, or as many of you know it as androgenetic alopecia. In February 2011, the Japanese firm Kyowa Hakko Kirin acquired ProStrakan for $474.6 million, making a significant step for Japan's pharmaceutical industry in expanding to global markets. With this acquisition, Kyowa Hakko Kirin also obtained clinical data from the Phase 1 and Phase 2 clinical trials of PSK-3841 or RU-58841. So with that all being explained, the lore and the changing of hands in this complex pharmaceutical company handshake, there is one question to ask in regards to RU-58841 or PSK-3841. Same compound, different names. Where are the Phase 1, Phase 2 human clinical trials? Because they were performed by ProStrakan, and we have some evidence that we can look at concerning those human clinical trials. In the early 2000s, two promising clinical trials were conducted to assess the efficacy and safety of PSK3841, commonly known as RU-58841, in treating androgenetic alopecia. The first study, led by Dr. Evelyn Gunul, was designed to evaluate the safety and tolerance of a 5% solution of the compound when applied topically to Caucasian males. Meanwhile, the second trial was spearheaded by Dr. Dominique Van Hest and sought to quantitatively estimate hair regrowth in male subjects using two different concentrations of the compound over a 6-month period. Despite completing both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the studies, the results were, curiously, never released to the public. The last known organization with access to the data is Kyowa Hakokirin, as they acquired that UK pharmaceutical company ProStrakan, who was researching PSK3841, also known as RU-58841, when they were interacting with Bayer. The reasons for not publishing the study outcomes remain a mystery. Adding a layer of intrigue, a Reddit user named Burgie claimed to have located and communicated with one of the doctors involved in the trials. Allegedly, the doctor shared that RU-58841 was indeed found to be safe and efficacious. However, the continuation of the research was abruptly halted due to financial constraints. Using the Wayback machine to revisit ProStrakan's website, a company that once investigated the potential of RU-58841 or PSK3841 uncovers intriguing claims about the molecule's capabilities. The archived webpage touts the molecule as an, quote, innovative, unquote, solution with a, quote, unique mechanism of action, unquote, specifically tailored for androgen-dependent conditions, specifically androgenetic alopecia and acne. Drawing from preclinical research, the molecule showed significant promise in multiple models for conditions including acne, androgenetic alopecia, and hirsutism. And for those of you who don't know, hirsutism is the excessive hair growth of unexpected areas on the body, such as the face, chest, and back, and it typically occurs with females who have excess androgens, and one of those androgens are DHT. Anyway, these studies underscored the molecule's systemic and dermal tolerance, and it looks like it was pretty well tolerated because they were able to go on to Phase 2 of the clinical trial process. The website suggests that RU-58841 or PSK3841 emerged unscathed, displaying no signs of systemic anti-androgen activity while maintaining commendable general dermal tolerance. By the time these details were posted, the molecule had cleared Phase 1 trials and even showcased the potential in a Phase 2 proof-of-concept trial for androgenetic alopecia. Impressively, the data suggests that after just 6 months of treatment, RU-58841 demonstrated a level of efficacy comparable to what is observed with existing oral alopecia treatments after a full year, that being finasteride and also dutasteride, specifically in terms of net hair count increase. So we don't have the specific details about the terminal hair count increase, the actual hairs that we see, the terminal anagen hairs. We just have this statement essentially saying that the total hair count went up. And this sort of phenomenon was observed in a sample size of 90 participants. And importantly, again, no systemic anti-androgenic effects were recorded. As a final note, the archived webpage states that this promising product was available for licensing. So yeah, everything on that website as it's being presented right now through the Wayback machine, this was written before the completion of the Phase 2 clinical study. And it should be said, we don't have the published data on PSK3841, aka also known as RU-58841's clinical trial results. So we don't have the Phase 1 clinical trial results, and we don't have the Phase 2 clinical trial results, despite them both being completed. RU-58841 or PSK3841's efficacy in addressing male pattern baldness hinges on its ability to obstruct DHT from binding to androgen receptors. Male pattern baldness or androgenetic alopecia is largely a result of DHT, a potent derivative of testosterone. I'm sure many of you know this by now, binding to androgen receptors in the hair follicles. This binding tends to miniaturize the follicle, causing hair thinning and eventual hair loss. An anti-androgen role in this context is to act as a competitor to DHT. By binding the androgen receptor itself, the anti-androgen prevents DHT from exerting its detrimental effects on the hair follicle. While RU-58841's affinity for the androgen receptor may be only 5% of what DHT's affinity is, its concentration becomes a critical factor. If applied in a high concentration, RU-58841 molecules can saturate the scalp's androgen receptors, minimizing the number of receptors available for DHT to bind to. And this fact is important with almost any sort of topical anti-androgen in the treatment of androgenetic alopecia. Because DHT has a high affinity for the androgen receptor, you have to saturate the scalp with anti-androgens that ideally don't go systemic or cause any sort of systemic issue, but still, as they're saturated throughout the scalp, they'll be able to outcompete DHT just by the sheer concentration of the amount of anti-androgen, in this case, RU-58841, being in the scalp. So its availability will make it more likely to come in contact with the androgen receptor, blocking out DHT from trying to compete and ultimately attach to that androgen receptor. Now, my personal investigation, I want to find the phase 1 and phase 2 elusive clinical studies on PSK 3841, commonly known as RU-58841. And this endeavor is not just about scientific curiosity, but a drive to provide clarity for the countless individuals grappling with the constraints of anecdotes about the drug. The online community is rife with accounts of users experiencing a range of side effects, from systemic absorption leading to sexual dysfunction to concerns about heart issues. I saw some horrific posts about people having heart conditions and heart attacks while using RU-58841. And we don't have the data yet, so we can't really disprove that if that's actually the case. It may be that, hey, while we were doing phase 2, 80% of our patients had a heart attack. Now, that's probably not the case. I'm kind of over-exaggerating. I'm really over-exaggerating there. But still, we need to see the clinical trial data for phase 1 and phase 2 to actually see what the side effects were, if there were any. And there are also claims about people who are using RU-58841 or PSK 3841. People are saying that they've gotten a significant amount of hair regrowth, and we see that in some of the pictures that are posted to the internet. And even the companies that investigated RU-58841 also made comments about the hair regrowth being comparable to finasteride or existing oral treatments. That's what they called it on the ProStrakan archived webpage. So by bringing this data to light, I hope to offer clarity and peace of mind to those considering or currently using RU-58841. This is going to be a hard task because it's going to involve me reaching out to, I think it's Kyowa Hako Kirin, the Japanese pharmaceutical company that acquired ProStrakan. They are the ones that have the details about the phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials on RU-58841, or PSK 3841 for that matter. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully I shared something new and gave some new insights. But if you got to the end of this video, which I'm hoping you did, comment down below carrot juice. Yeah, I've been having a craving for carrot juice lately. Personally, I'm not sure why, but I had it about a week ago and the taste keeps coming back. So comment in the comment section below carrot juice. And if you are interested, join the community Discord in the description below. So thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I can give you some good news in one of the future videos I'll make, saying that, hey, I have the phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trial data on RU-58841, also known as PSK 3841. Hopefully I've been saying the numbers correctly this entire time during the video. But yeah, peace out, guys, and thank you so much for watching.